Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. In today's video, we're going to be doing a progression guide for free to play. So this is on my free to play account. We're on day 2 of it. And I'm basically going to go through everything that I'm going to do, what I'm going to target, things like the wish list, the gear, the shops, and just a few extra tips on like optimizing your progression for free to play so that you can go as fast as possible. So let's get into the video. First things first, every one of my videos we do a random giveaway. So if we get this single pool to be a purple, it's a giveaway. It's a blue, it is not a giveaway. Lucky it wasn't a purple because I emptied out my wish list. So the first thing we are going to look at is the wish list, and I want to make a disclaimer before we get into this is that RNG is going to heavily change the direction you will take your account depending on the heroes that you do pull. So just keep that in mind when looking at it. Also, I'll probably leave timestamps in the description for navigating around the different topics in this video if you want to go. But the first thing we're going to look at is going to be the wish list. Now the wish list is something important, something very important. Friendship summons, normal scrolls, faction scrolls, and diamond summons. If they get a purple, it is guaranteed to be a hero in the wish list. So fill out your wish list. If you leave any of these positions blank, it will mean there's a chance that you will just get a random hero, and it can be a low tier hero. That is bad. Fill out your wish list is the basic gist. Now, the way you want to fill out your wish list is going to be, and White Sushi is a fantastic guy on Reddit, has a lot of amazing posts. He's made a post about this as well in the recent days about the wish list, and basically pretty much his staple units are very much on point with my staple units, and basically his substitutes are very similar. So what I'm going to go through is my list of what I recommend for the wish list. And first off, Lightbearers, Lucius, Rowan, Rosaline. They are my no-brainers. They have been for a long time. They're just 3. Rowan is probably the best hero in the game besides Celestial Hypergenes in my opinion. Lucius is definitely the best early game tank, mid game tank. Yeah, arguments could be made that he falls off a bit end game, but like that's way down the track. Definitely worth the investment. And Rosaline is just huge for buffing your main damage dealer. Really nice to have in there. We'll go into the additional slots in a minute. Maulers, there's basically to me there's sort of 3 main ones, 2 real main ones, a third kind of main. So we're basically, Maulers aren't a great faction. Basically, you don't really want to go for Maulers from your faction scrolls. We'll talk about faction scrolls in a minute. But Sophia and Brutus. So Sophia is just an absolute god damage dealer late game. Just absolutely fantastic. Has some crowd control. Has a pyramid that she puts up, increasing your allies' damage and decreasing your enemies' damage is the basic gist of it. She has a massive ultimate that deals huge damage as an execute. It's really nice. Brutus, he's in there. He's still niche in situations. He's not as good as he was when the game first came out. He's fallen off a bit, but he's still good. He has basically an 8-second immunity to damage the first time he would have died. So just absolutely fantastic to put in there. The next slot is going to be Screath, the chicken. I just call him the chicken. Don't take offense to it. He's just basically, he's like the sort of the one Mauler support that is basically like the one useful sort of Mauler support type unit. He has some crit rate and stuff for his allies. He has a vortex that drags enemies in. He just has some utility, which is nice. He is not 100% necessary. I saw in White Sushi's guy, he put him as a staple. So we'll put him there because, like I said, the Maulers don't have too much fantastic stuff. So you try and make up the staples as you can. So then we go into the wilder heroes. Now this is a no-brainer staple lineup for me. I wouldn't change this unless you really want to build one of the different heroes for fun. But your support core for wilders is going to be Leica, Tassie, and Nomura. Leica, she provides that haste buff at the start, armor breaks, really fantastic. Tassie got a banish at the start, like she uses pretty early on. Then she also has an AoE sleep for 4 seconds for the whole enemy team. I think pretty sure it's 4 seconds. Anyway, she sleeps the whole team. She's fantastic. Nomura has a mind control and heals. really nice as well. These three can make up a real good core. Early game you can swap them out for Arden, who is a common hero that you can get fairly easily, so you can build him without having him on the wish list. You don't want to put them on the wish list. Next up we have Iron, who's just an absolutely amazing damage dealer. When we talk about RNG, if you get really good RNG and pull a lot of copies of this guy, you can definitely use him as your main carry from early game. He shines a bit more into the later game once you get him mythic, get his signature item and all that stuff, but still really good early game. And then the final one is going to be Saurus. Saurus is just basically the boss, the god for boss battles. Basically, he outshines anyone by a mile in pretty much every boss fight, besides one. He just has so much damage. The problem is he's not as great in campaign because his whole thing is that he's required not to get CC'd, which means crowd control, stun, slept, anything like that. And so in campaign there's a lot more enemies that use crowd control on you, so he's not as good there. I feel like he still could be good. I haven't tested him as a carry-on account, but yeah, you want him in there because you really want him for boss fights, because the boss fights are going to be nice to get you extra points, a lot of stuff you get from boss fights, so he's just really nice to have in there. Next up is going to be Graveborn, and there are three staples for this. The two staples I would recommend everyone have on their wish list is going to be Pharrell and Nara. The third one, if you're free to play and you haven't had the best RNG, is going to be Shamira, because she is going to be who I recommend as your main carry. You can buy her from the Labyrinth store, so she's going to be the easiest one to keep ascending and pushing up, and that's why I like the Shamira. Really fantastic hero, just such a good carry, has the AoE damage, the self-healing, all that good stuff. So she's going to be in there as free-to-play. I feel like 90% of free-to-play players will end up using her as the carry unless you get crazy RNG on summoning something else. The Pharrell's in there. He's just he gets better with skill up, so he's better towards the late game, but still decent early game. He's a CC beast, reduces their energy, fears them. He's just really nice. He has little spirits that do interrupts as well. Nara, she basically is a one enemy lockout. You put her opposite to an enemy, she's going to lock them out for good. Has a massive execute that can ignore immunities and shields. Really nice. But yeah, that is going to be the staple lineup for free to play wish list that I'd be looking at. Filler spots for this one, for me personally, I'm going to go Gwyneth, and then I'm going to go, I've been tossing up between Forks and Cecilia, so that's Forks, or you can do Cecilia. Another one that I see White Sushi mention is Belinda. Now Belinda is cool because as a damage dealer, you get an Elite Plus copy of her for free at the 7-day login. You also get an Elite copy of her at the, I can't remember what chapter it is. It's one of like the first 10 chapters. You get one of her for clearing the chapter, which is really nice. So you basically get 3 free copies of her. You only need 4 to be able to go mythic. So she is decent. She's a really just good general damage dealer as well, burst damage. However, that's not the way I'm going to go, and I'll explain it later. But what I've got on my wish list at the moment is going to look like this with the Forks. I just like Forks' banish and stuff like that, kind of like the Tassie has banish. He has an AoE strip that can remove Brutus shields and stuff like that, so he's the one I'm going to put on my list. Also because I haven't actually built this guy on any of my accounts, I'm going to go for him on there. But definitely Cecilia is another fantastic one. She puts a ring down that reduces enemies attacks, has basically a really solid single target damage ultimate that can stun as well. So those are my options, but I'm going to go ahead and put Forks in there. The Maulers, now there are a few options for Maulers. Warwick is the next one I would probably put in as a staple because he is really good for boss fights as well. He's become the new meta in boss fights. He has basically a big defense decrease that is really going to help you there. Not too fantastic in campaign and stuff like that. Other options are Titus. Titus is just really useful. I really do like him in the mid game. End game, he sort of falls off where he dies too quick, but he's just a cool looking dude, so I really like him. Anarchy is one I'm not too sure on because he's a new hero, so I'm putting him in my wish list. That's what my wish list is going to look like. Just because Anarchy, haven't tested him, so I have got one of him on this account, and he just seems like a really nice support, increases allies attack and haste. He has a big ultimate knockback. He has a stun. He just has some support that maulers don't really have. The other ones are going to be, you can try a Screg. Screg's really cool. I really do like Screg. You can also get him from the Labyrinth store. He has a knockback, an ultimate where he jumps on his thing and stomps around and can't be CC'd. He also has a passive where if like the closer enemies are, the less damage he takes. The other one is going to be Totem Dude. Basically, he's there just because he is the only healer in Maulers. He's not a great healer at all, but when you get into faction towers, which are the towers that open up later in the game where you can only take the one faction type heroes into it, you know, he's going to be the only healing option. But this is how I'm going to leave my wish list there. Like I said, Wilders have 5 stable heroes, and that's how I'd leave it unless you really want to build something else. If you really want to build something else, I'd probably drop the Iron, because if you want to build something else, it's probably going to be like a Solus for a carry, and then you drop the Iron, or I'd drop the Namora because you can eventually get Namora from the shop. So that's how I'd play that. When we move into the Graveborn, there's basically Thorin is the next one I'd add in. He can be bought from the shop as well, but towards late game there is a Thorin cheese strategy where he can basically just one-shot whole teams. I've got videos out on that as well, but he's just one that you want to put in aiming for a bit into the later game. And then the final slot for this one, to me there's 2 options. There's Grizzle, who has good synergy with Saurus for boss fights, where he steals enemies' attack, and then you can link him to Saurus using the Celestial Twins ability. It's a bit more in depth, but he has that synergy with Saurus for boss fights. The other one that I like that I didn't see on White Sushi's guide is Odin. He seems like a really good control type hero. There is also, if you're watching this in the future, and this could change with new heroes that come into the game, but there's a suspected Graveborn healer that isn't in the game yet, and he sounds really amazing. If he does come into the game, he would fill in this last staple spot, in my opinion. His name is Silas, or rumored to be, so that's how it goes. What I'm going to leave in is going to be the Odin, just because I really like Odin. I really like him. Probably optimally, I'd probably leave Grizzle in there because you can get more use out of that. But Odin, for free to play, he's a good option because his ultimate also resets enemies' energy bars, which means you can fight against boss battles and not let them use their ultimates. Also really good for hard mode in the Labyrinth. So that took a while. Sorry for people who know all that stuff who just watch it, but hey, that hopefully explains the wish list and what you want to go for there. Next up, we're going to look at the shops. Now, there's a few staple things you want to buy from the shop, in my opinion. The first one is this dust for the gold cost. Now, early game, there is always going to be gold issues for you. Just leveling up heroes costs a lot of gold and all that stuff. So if you can't buy it, do not stress. It's not the end of the world, but it is really helpful. There's also sometimes you will see there will be 5 of the purple stones in there at a discount. They do end up getting a higher discount. As you can see, we're at 25% discount for these slots. They go up to 40% discount. When they're at 40% discount, they cost 90 diamonds for 5 stones, which is worth it in my opinion to buy. It becomes a very cheap elite hero for you. So if those are in there, those are what I buy, and that's pretty much where I leave it for the main shop. For the guild shop, you do not want to buy anything from the guild shop. Even though there's a weekly quest to buy something from the guild shop, you do not want to go there and buy anything until mythic gear starts appearing, which I believe is around chapter 12. Don't quote me, but yeah, once you see mythic gear in here, that is the only time you want to buy mythic gear. Besides that, just do not buy anything. Just save your points, because then you want to buy as much mythic gear as you can when you get into it. We'll talk about gear a bit more in a minute, but yeah, basically this is just a gear shop. Eventually you want to buy gear, and you want it to be the right type of gear and the right faction. You don't want to buy factionless gear. You want to buy gear with the faction of the hero that you're putting it on, is the key there. Barracks, basically just keep saving. You get these coins from releasing common heroes, so you can retire heroes here, and as you can see, oh wait, it's just giving me tutorials, but yeah, you can retire these green guys that you summon here, and just do that. Also, make sure this is ticked green so that whenever you summon those common heroes, they will get fed. Those green heroes are completely useless in the game, so don't stress about it. But yeah, we were in the shop. So after the barracks, we're going to go into the Labyrinth store. Now the Labyrinth store is up to you. Like I said, most people are going to go the Chimera carry because as free to play, you don't get that many summons. So it's hard to target a hero. That's why I recommend Chimera as your main carry damage dealer. She's just going to be really, really fantastic in the way that she can basically just carry your team. So she is the great one that I think most free to play players will go for. For me personally, what I'm going to do is, my plan for this account is going to be go Chimera. I want to get her ascended as my main carry. You need 8 copies to get a hero ascended, 8 copies total. I have an ascension guide and stuff out there if you want more basics. This is trying to get more in depth in the strategy. So the Chimera first, and then for me, I'm going to move on to Arthur. Now, Arthur takes a long time. As you can see, he costs more than the others, and you need to buy him 4 times before you can actually summon him, because he only gives you 15 stones. These guys all give you 60. Wukong is a decent option, but the reason I'm not going to use Wukong as my carry is because he's harder to summon in general. He's a celestial hero. You're going to summon more copies probably of Chimera as you go, and for me, when I've tried to build a Wukong carry before, he basically just falls off because you can't keep him ascended high enough to have him as the highest level hero in your team. So I'm going to go Chimera, then I'm going to pivot to Arthur. The reason I'm pivoting to Arthur after that is endgame, a really good team involves Arthur and Gwyneth. So that's why Gwyneth is on my wish list, and that's why I'm going to pivot to Arthur, because I want to have the Chimera as my early to mid game carry, and then I'm going to pivot into a Gwyneth carry. So that's the idea there. There is also going to be the Challenger store, which unlocks around chapter 10 or 12, which is it opens up the Challengers Arena. You get points there. Basically, there's Athalia and Aziz in that shop, the Celestial and Hypergene. Go for one of those two. They're both really good options. Don't stress too hard. Just don't go for normal heroes, Celestials and Hypergenes. So Athalia or Aziz, that's what you want to get from that shop. So that pretty much covers the shop. The next thing I wanted to cover was gear. Now, gear is, I think before I said you got to get the faction, you can't control what faction you get. You basically see the piece of gear in the shop, you purchase it, and then it gives it a faction. But basically, with the gear, the gearing priority of the best gear you want to get, for most people, it's going to be for the Chimera carry for free-to-play players. You're going to want to get the boots, then the staff, then the hat, then the chest. If any of them don't come out as the faction you're after, don't stress about it. Just go to the next piece, the next piece, the next piece. Once you get full sets made out of whatever faction they have on them, then you can start looking at trying to get the right faction pieces. But basically, all you want to do is get that mythic gear straight up. As you can see, this one's a light bearer, these are factionless, it doesn't matter. But mythic gear is what you want to wait for from the shop, which is the red gear. It unlocks from the shop, the guild shop, at about chapter 12. So hold those points like I said before in here, but the gearing order that you want to get your mythic gear in is going to be boots, staff, hat, chest. There is another thing that in the Labyrinth store, I mean, there is sometimes a merchant in here. I don't have any on this stage, but sometimes there will be a merchant with a 40% discount, and they can have that gear. If they do have boots for the carry hero of your account, for instance, on this one, if they had cloth boots in there at 40% discount, I think it puts them around 17 to 1800 diamonds cost. Might be 1900, I can't remember exactly. But I've bought that on a few accounts and I don't regret it. I'm not sure in the mathematical probability of everything, you know, the calculations that everyone will go into, whether it's optimal, but it's something to consider. If you see them before you, even if you get it before you unlock mythic gear in the guild store, you might want to go and pick them up. Up to you. I wouldn't pick up more than one piece though. Maybe just the boots or just the staff if you're really desperate, and it's there at a discount. Besides that, don't do it. But yeah, that's that's pretty much the main point for gear. Wait until mythic gear is in there. The other thing about gear is anything below mythic, I only blue gear you can only upgrade to 3 stars. Once you start getting the elite gear, purple, legendary gear, the yellow ones, do not upgrade them past 3 stars in my opinion. The gold cost past 3 stars becomes way too much, and you're going to end up feeding them, and that's how you get into massive gold losses if you upgrade too much gear that you don't need. Same thing goes with mythic gear. When you start getting mythic gear, only upgrade them to level 3, then get another piece upgraded to level 3, because the stat bonuses and the gold cost of upgrading to level 3 on 4 pieces, as opposed to like upgrading 1 piece to 5 star, is massively different. So just leave them at 3 until you get more pieces and more gold, and then you can start upgrading them further. But yeah, and also mythic factionless gear, so gear without a faction, never upgrade. I personally will never upgrade it. I have on a couple accounts. Maybe if you're desperate, upgrade it to level 3. But mythic gear, I just like to leave. Mythic factionless gear, I just like to leave unupgraded, unless it's like one of your first couple pieces, just because you're going to eventually feed it, and it just becomes lost gold for your account. Moving on from that, I want to talk about some team compositions. We're over here on one of my other accounts so that we can demonstrate the team compositions, but some really good team compositions for, and once again, this is going to depend on your RNG, what you pull and all that sort of stuff, but a great staple comp and front row, if you get lucky with Lucius pulls, because he's absolutely fantastic. A great staple team is going to be Chimera and Lucius in the front. Those two are just a really solid front row, because Chimera, and when you're leveling heroes in the early game, you want to level that Chimera or your main carry damage deal, whoever you get lucky with the RNG. You want to level them above everyone else. You can max them out on levels, and then they'll get to a certain point where they say every other hero has to be at a certain level before you can go any further with this one. So then you level the others up to that level, and then you keep pushing that main carry hero. That's how I do it on most of my accounts. Those two are going to make up a fantastic front row. Chimera can go front row because she is going to be leveled beyond the rest of your heroes, so she's going to be naturally tanky. She does have some self-healing as well. Lucius, he's like just the best tank for progression. Hopefully you pull a couple copies. If not, you can make something else work. But then another optimal hero is going to be Rowan. Rowan is fantastic to put in there. Then for the third slot, to make up a faction bonus, you can look at something like a Forks or a Rosaline. Forks is really nice for the CC. It depends on the stage whether you need more CC or not. And then Rosaline's there because she's gonna basically make Chimera just do more damage and ult faster. So Forks or Rosaline is really solid. You can do both of them as well for a Lightbearer's Core to get a 4-piece faction bonus. The other thing you can do is you can put in one of those two, for instance Forks, and then you can do something like a Tassie or a Leica or a Nomura just for that extra support. Or if Forks, I'd normally go something like Rosaline with the Tassie or something like that. You can mix around with that. This way you get a nice 3-piece bonus, and you also get some CC and some damage. The next team I want to look at is going to be, once again, that Chimera and Lucius. Lucius, you can also swap in this composition. You can also swap Lucius for something like a Brutus if you only have like 1 copy, because worst case, Brutus does have his immunity, so he can kind of work in there, but Lucius is much better. But yeah, it's going to be that same stable front row, and then you can do Leica, and in your first couple days you're not going to have all these teams. You just make it up as you go. I'll show you my account in a minute for the first couple days, but you can go Leica, Tassie and Nomura. This is a really good wilder core of basically haste and armor breaking from the Leica, CC from the Tassie, and also CC and also healing from the Nomura, which is really nice. The other option I do sometimes really early game is drop the Nomura and put in an Arden. You can drop any one of those and put in the Arden just as the other option. He just has really good CC. Level 141 is where he gets really good because he starts rooting 3 enemies passively. At level 81 he does 2, so 81 he becomes usable. 41 he becomes 141 he becomes really good. But besides that, those are going to be like the main stable teams you're going to look at basically for that sort of stuff. Another thing that you can throw in there, another comp if you do have the heroes, is going to be going back to the Lightbearer's Core. You can actually get a 3-2 faction bonus. This slot you can use Forks or you can use Rosaline again, and then for the last slot, if you do have the copies, you can use a Pharrell. It's going to give you some nice CC, healing, control. This is another really solid comp that I do like. It gets better as you get later into the game because Pharrell just improves as you get later. But those are going to be the main sort of comps that you're going to look at. Once again, if you don't have the Lucius, you can try the Brutus, but only really with that Wilder core because you still want to get at least a 3-piece faction bonus. This one's really nice because it gives you the 3-2 faction bonus, but you know, it's whatever you get. You do have you can use the 4 light bearers, get the 4-piece. You're going to struggle to get a 5-piece bonus though, because most people are going to use Chimera as the carry. We'll jump back over to the free-to-play account and show you what my team looks like at the moment. Okay, so as you can see, this is my team at the moment. Wukong is going to be a fantastic carry in the early game until you buy a few Chimeras from the shop. So he is the one I would be looking at. You get a free copy of him if you're doing some Facebook shares. You don't even have to share on Facebook. You just have to click the button and go back into the game. So you get a free copy of him at the start, and he is going to be the early game carry for most people until you get the copies of Chimera. He's just really fantastic. Puts out his clones and does lots of damage. He's just really nice. But as you can see, the early game, this is day 2 of the account, you're just going to piece together whatever you can, try and get a faction bonus, use the best heroes you have, and that's pretty much all there is to it. As you can see, I leveled Wukong to level 80, and then I got the rest of these guys to level 60 because when he was level 80, he couldn't level any further until I got all these guys to level 60. So he's at 80 now. I just need a bit more dust, and then I will level him up, and then I'll go ahead and level him up to level 100. And just so on and so forth. Just keep leveling him until he can't go any further, and eventually I will substitute him for that Chimera. The last thing I want to mention, and I do have other beginners guides that cover the absolute basics. I just wanted to go more in depth in this one, but the other thing I want to talk about is these chests. Basically gold and dust I avoid using until I really need them, especially at this stage of the game. As you can see, using this 8-hour one is only going to give me 57 dust. Basically, they give hourly rewards based on the stage you're at in the game at the moment. So this one, it's a confusing one. So if I have experience chests, like I just popped one then on this account, and basically where I was at was 2 of my heroes were not yet level 60. They were both around level 40. Popping a 24-hour chest allowed me to level them both up to level 60, which is going to let me progress a lot more. So the experienced ones I don't mind using. The dust ones you can use, and the gold ones, like I said, but only use them if you're absolutely desperate to get that dust. Like I'm desperate to get Wukong to get that extra 60 dust. But I know I can just straight up go into the King's Tower, push further, and get all the stuff I need. So it's only if you can't possibly obtain that stuff, and you know it'll help your progression, is when you use the stuff out of the bags. The gold I'm going to try and hold on to for as long as I can. But that's the basic gist. The dust I'm going to hold on to until I can't progress anymore in Tower. I've done my Labyrinth. I've done any peaks of time once they unlock. Once I can't do anything more, then I will start to pop them. The one final thing I want to leave this video with is Arena. In the very early game, like the first couple of days, as you can see, I'm still really early. You get these tickets for completing quests. Use those tickets early on. In your first couple of days, you can just attack the easiest enemy. The rewards that you get for winning are the same whether you attack the easiest or the hardest. So just attack your easiest enemies, use all your tickets, especially early on, because some of the prizes you get from these are 10 dust and also 90,000 gold. And those don't scale at the moment. They don't scale as you go up. So you want to use these early on because that 10 dust and 90,000 gold is going to go much, much further in the very, very early game than it is in the late game. Once you get towards like sort of chapter 7, 8, 9, you might want to stop and start holding these and saving for an arena push later on. But in the very, very early game, I recommend using them just to get those extra resources that will help. But I think I covered everything I wanted to in that one. That is going to be it for this one, guys. Like I said, I have got other very basic guides. I've got Ascension guides, all that sort of stuff out there if you need. But that one is it. I've almost lost my voice. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.